Hello, good evening. I am quite pleased to be doing this surprise midweek stream. Um, yeah, something new. Hopefully, it's working okay. Just felt like getting on streaming. I was going to do some tying anyway. Wanted to talk a little bit about the show that I was just at, and you know, give my impressions and all that. So, um, this past weekend I was at the uh, Thai Lefty Craze Thai Fest, and it was at the BWI Airport Marriott in by the Baltimore Airport, and yeah, it was a really nice show. There's a good number of vendors, and but it was kind of so Saturday morning there were a good number of patrons there, but then beginning I don't know, Saturday afternoon, right about maybe 1 o'clock, it was pretty dead. And I think the reason for that is just such nice weather. People were going outside rather than staying in to go to the fly fishing show. But I got to meet a number of people, make a number of connections, talk to people. Like I said, there were a good number of vendors there, and it was a nice show. Um, I think that will be a show that I will be doing for the in future years. It's nice and close to where I live, and yeah, it was a good show. One of the connections that I made while I was there was with the Partridge of Redditch distributor. So Partridge of Redditch is a hook maker in the UK, and they have a US distributor, Willowy Mock, something like that. And their rep came by and gave me a number of hooks to tie on, and I've been tying. I've tied a few flies on them, and they include these flies. These are two of the flies, number 2 and number 3, for the River Bann from Blacker's Art of Fly Making. And these are really nice hooks. Partridge makes some of the nicer hooks. At least that's their reputation. And so yeah, it was a real pleasure to get some and be able to tie on them. And so I've started in on the Blacker flies for the River Bann. Tonight I'm continuing. I'm going to be tying number 5 for the River Bann. I'm skipping around a little bit because there are some materials that I don't have that I will need to get to finish the series. Chief amongst them are a purple hackle, because I just don't tie with purple very often, except for some purple silk that I have. I almost never use purple. And then I believe I will need some puce. Either puce hackle or not hackle, but puce floss or puce dubbing. Probably floss, since I believe that is available from either JEC or one of the other Japanese silk manufacturers. Puce just isn't a color that you see a lot anymore, so it's fairly difficult to find. But I can tie most of the rest, so I'm going to be working on number 5 tonight. Just a reminder before I forget, just one announcement. Over on my Instagram, when I reach 500 followers on my Instagram, I will be doing a giveaway. I think I'm up to 5 Mary Orvis Marbury style flies that are fishing quality, so they're not they're not tied with metal tinsels. They're tied with mylar. They're tied with rayon instead of silk, but they're for fishing. And then I will throw in a few extra goodies to whoever wins that as well. And also, just a reminder, it's not going to be a straight giveaway. There will be a competition element to it because I don't want to do just a giveaway. So I think that's the only other announcement. Other than go follow me on Instagram, because the giveaway, it's at justwondering.brad. And if you want to support the stream, I'm saving up some money to buy myself a new vise and a new fly rod, but mostly a new vise. Go check out my Etsy shop, Studio1213 on Etsy. I've said this in the past. I think searching Just Wondering's flies on Etsy will actually bring you to my shop as well. But Studio1213 will definitely take you there. Yeah. I've had a couple people ask me during the show, how I'm monetizing my videos or the live stream, whether I'd set up a Patreon or not. And the thing is, like, I don't want to just take donations. I would really like to, be able to give you guys something back in return. So purchasing flies off my Etsy shop or purchasing items off my Etsy shop is really the best way to support the channel. And I appreciate, the handful of people who have purchased things off my Etsy shop. It's really helped keep this hobby self-funded, so I can continue to tie and not, dig into other finances. All right, so squeaky chair. All right. So the hooks that I'm tying on are our Partridge's streamer salmon fly streamer hooks. This particular model is a light wire, which is why I'm had the idea to tie blacker flies on them. I think kind of the sparse mixed wing style of blacker suits light wire hooks fairly well, although not necessarily. For example, I think some of the spring flies with the full feather wings definitely should be tied on a heavier shank hook. But overall, I think the sparse mixed wings fit well on these hooks. So number 5 reads orange body, broad gold tinsel, dark brown red hackle over it, strips of wood duck and neck feather for tail. Oh. My excuse is that I've been sick for the past couple of days and I'm not fully into it right now. Oh yeah, and by the way, I'm reading the recipe out of this is a 1993 reprint of Blacker's Art of Fly Making in the Fly Fisherman's Gold kind of binding series. So it's a really nice resource. It's a really nice printing, and I use it all the time. But yeah, that's what I'm looking at because I'm reading off it. So it doesn't have a golden pheasant crest tail. It has a wood duck, and so it says neck feather, and what that refers to is golden pheasant tippet, invariably. And again, I want this actually to be fairly sparse. because we are dealing with a fine wire hook. Okay, and some wood duck. Where'd the wood duck go? Man, I laid out all my materials and I still got it wrong. That's an internet expert for you. Okay, some wood duck. Yeah, and I'm sorry for the sniffles. Like I said, I'm getting a little bit of a cold. But I figured I was going to be tying on these flies anyway. Thought I'd share with you guys. And I'm just going to tie these in as strips, and I'm going to tie it in all 4 strips at the same time. Just kind of a inefficient way to do things. Just make sure all the tips are lined up. I'm not super fanatical about the barring lining up and all that, but it's nice when it happens. Okay, so there's a nice tail bundle. It's just 2 strips of golden pheasant crests and 2 strips of wood duck back to back. Just gonna soft loop it on. Back it off, tie in my rib. Now it calls for broad gold tinsel, which usually is interpreted to mean flat, and I don't really have broad flat gold, so I'm going to be using oval gold tinsel. And I think that'll be okay because it also has a body hackle, so it won't look too bad. But this is fairly chunky gold oval tinsel, so now it has a hackle, and I think so. Out of the Blacker book, a hackle would be wound or rolled over the entire body. However, I prefer just for looks. So it's not quite authentic, but I prefer for looks if the hackle actually starts with the second rib. And so I'm going to tie in the hackle with the body silk rather than tying it in now with the thread. So I'm going to deviate just a little bit from the correct style. And, I've already deviated significantly from the correct style by using a knot hook. But these hooks are a little too nice not to tie on. Okay, so strips of wood duck and neck feather for tail, strips of spotted Argus pheasant, a dark full mallard wing with 2 neck feathers in the center and a black head. Fairly easy pattern, fairly straightforward. The difficulty always is reading Blacker's descriptions because oftentimes Blacker could be writing the recipe in the order in which materials are tied on. Alternatively, sometimes he's writing, describing the fly from, head to tail as if it were a, fully tied or finished fly. And other times, who knows? The other thing to remember is that sometimes, depending on the method of construction of the fly, the wing would actually be tied on first, and it'd be tied on facing forward, and then you'd wind on the body and all its components, and then when you're done, you just fold the wing back over and lash it down at the head. We don't tend to do that today anymore because it's mostly unnecessary. But that was one method of attaching a wing that frequently shows up, and it's reflected in how they describe their recipes. All right, so I'm going to select a hackle. I'm just going to give it a light prep. I'm just going to strip away the fuzz from the end of the hackle. This is nicely tapered. It calls for a brown red hackle, and usually when they say brown red hackle, they're kind of talking about this fiery brown, like rooster neck hackle. This is a natural. You can get them dyed, but I definitely prefer a natural. So brown red hackle, or even if they say like blood red hackle, they might be talking about a darker shade of this, and not so much like red. All right, silk, orange silk. It just says orange body. It could be orange dubbing. I happen to have orange silk on hand. I do actually believe I have orange dubbing as well, but yeah. Actually, I don't think I have orange seal. I have orange Angora goat. But they would not have had orange Angora goat dubbing back then. They most definitely would have had orange silk, orange seal. Pig's wool was a common one, and sheep's wool, and then also mohair, which is from a rabbit. but Angora goat would have been unknown to the fly tying community at the time. Okay. Turn this around. Stop about here. So I'm going to back up one. Stop about here. I need pliers just to keep the silk hanging. And I need to prep my hackle just a little bit more. So to tie on my hackle, I'm going to tie it on just by the tip of the hackle. So just going to pull the hackle down, slide it under the floss, and then continue wrapping the floss body over the tip of the hackle. I'm tying the hackle on not at 6 o'clock because it's going to take a little bit of a run up to get it properly winding. So I want to tie it on approximately 7, I guess. If again, like I always do, talking about the hook shank as the face of the clock, the hackle, and pretty much anything that I tie on that it will eventually get wound down the hook shank goes on at 7 o'clock or later. Kind of like this stream. Ooh. Wind down to the tie-in point. Couple of wraps of thread. Secure the floss. Extra. All right, so now I'm going to wind the tinsel. This stuff is extraordinarily chunky. It's a vintage, like super thick gold oval tinsel. And it is, this might actually be, gosh, I don't think I've ever said this about a vintage tinsel, but this might actually be too chunky for this fly. Yeah. It would look great if it would wind on properly. It wants to twist really badly. It's like it's got an internal twist that is twisting against my reps. That's really kind of a weird feeling under the fingers. Okay. That was a little bit of a struggle, not gonna lie. I yeah, that was just a little bit weird because like I was winding it one direction and you would think it would want to lay flat against the body, but it actually wanted to twist itself in the opposite direction, which is really kind of counterintuitive and weird. Uh, but yeah, that looks. It looks all right in the end. Okay. Now this also has a collar or throat hackle, or a shoulder, as Blacker would say. So I'm not going to take any extra turns from the body hackle. Just going to take a. Okay, so the shoulder hackle is a claret. No, I'm just kidding. Man, I am all over the place because I'm pretty sure I read that it had a claret hackle at the shoulder, but I might be mixing it up with another fly. Yeah, okay. In that case, I want to add a little extra bulk at the front. I've already cut off my feather. So I'm going to add a little extra and add another hackle. Choose one that's a little bit darker. That'll look nice. Just going to fold the hackle and give it maybe 2 or 3 turns, 3 at the most. Yeah, I'm just going to do 2. Okay, so that gives it just a little bit more bulk, a little bit more oomph at the front end. Great. Okay, so unlike some of the other flies for the band, this fly has an underwing of tibbets. And tippets we shall use. And about both of these are not good. So underwings, tippets for underwings, pretty much the same rules as if you're doing a full feather wing. Even though it's an underwing, it's still you want to have the feathers match up, both in size and curvature. So these are pretty close, as you can see. So this is two feathers back to back, and you can see that it's perfectly straight. Just about the right length. Just gotta pull off a bunch of the fuzz. Still a little bit long. All right, so if you have trouble with the ends crossing like this, you can just give them a little bit of a trim, and that'll help keep them straight. So, all right, just a few more fibers off the back wing. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten the stems at the tie-in point. And then what I'm going to do is for the far wing, the feather for the far wing, I'm going, again, because if I were to tie these on if I flatten if this is the orientation of the feather on the fly, right? And I flatten the stem like this, when I go to tie it on, it's going to end up crooked like this because of how round the shank is. So what I want to do is I want to take the flatten down the tie-in point with my needle nose pliers, and then I want to give that just a little bit of a twist so that it'll lay against the round shank, and the feathers will fold nice and neatly back to each other. Yeah, and sorry for the sniffles. Like I said, I'm getting over a cold. I either acquired it at the show, or possibly for my family who visited us about a week ago. I'm a little bit sniffly. All right, so let's go on. Just like that. Just sit right straight on top of the hook, like so. I'm going to back off the thread a little bit. I'm going to apply some wax, like always. Just gotta wait for it to soften up a little bit. Okay. Trim the ends. There we go. Okay, so now it's saying strips of spotted Argus, and that would be these feathers. I believe this is from the tail, and I believe these are actually from the secondary tail feathers, and not like the middle tail. The other thing that you see often for Argus pheasants are the wing feathers with the eyes, and these are frequently used as golden pheasant substitutes, which I always think is a little bit strange because the Argus feathers are more expensive than the golden pheasant tail. But you use what you can get. And I will say the Argus does have some better or nicer marrying qualities than straight golden pheasant tail. But I've been using Amgold for the past couple of years, and so for me at least, it hasn't been such a big deal. So I'm just going to do four fibers of each for each side of the spotted Argus. I'm going to make it a little bit long and low because I'm going to tie mallard on top of this. Now, I suppose you could interpret this as having the Argus in the tail and not in the wing, just because of the order in which Blacker lists the materials in the recipe. Again, like I said, I don't, we can never quite be sure what order Blacker intended things to be tied on because he uses several methods for describing tying order and the process. So, it is a lot up to, interpretation or whatever you think looks good. And I will say, Blacker himself offers a lot of variants to his own patterns. There is in the description of one of his spring patterns, he does say this is tied in orange, but if a fish comes up to it but doesn't take it, cast this same fly but make the body out of pale blue, and you'll surely get him this time or that time. Who knows? I guess that probably works, but even Blacker himself offers variations. And again, it only gives a body color. It doesn't say whether it's fur, whether it's stubbed fur or floss. And that's because a lot of these patterns could be tied with, or would, in a practical sense, be tied with both. Or you would see these patterns tied with both. More important to the fisherman was the color. And they wouldn't necessarily have given too much thought to, whether it was dubbed or a floss body. So just a mallard wing, a full mallard wing. Pull out some random mallard here. I have a lot of random mallard. These approximately the same color. These are approximately the same color. Try a better match. This is a better match. So these are pretty good, actually. So, to my mind, a full mallard wing usually means like a double wing or a doubled wing. Um, Given that it's already got some other elements on it, I don't know if it needs to be doubled. Um, I think part of the interest may be being able to see, the Argus through the mallard slip. But I am going to use rather chunky mallard slips. So I'll flip it on. Cool. I'm just going to trim. Buttons. Cool. And I'm going to, of course, wax my thread and bind down the ends, and then I'm going to use an black ostrich earl head. Again, it says a black head, which means it could be dubbed, it could just be lacquered. I think ostrich earl heads look nice and tidy, plus very, very, classy. So, of course, I'm going to use ostrich earl. And also, I will say, waxing your thread before tying on your ostrich earl head does help the ostrich earl stick to, the slope of the thread a little bit more. So, like, your thread has a pretty good amount of, if the head has a pretty good amount of taper, then the ostrich earl will continue to slide. Will want to slide off the down the head, and so waxing it will help prevent it from slipping. Let's wind it back to the tying spot. Okay. Hackle pliers as usual to help wind. And again, as I wind it on, I am not going to fold it per se. I'm just going to brush all the fibers to the back side of the stem so they don't get caught going forward. I want them all to be swept backwards. Just helps it keep nice and tidy looking. Oh no. And the hurl broke, but luckily just at the pliers, so didn't lose any of it. These are size 2 hooks, so they're a little bit more fiddly than tying on my typical 3/0. Okay. There we go. Just build up a little bit of a thread base for the head there. And I'm going to whip finish. All right, there we go. This is the number 5. Such a great name, the number 5. For the River Bann from Blacker's Art of Fly Making. Come on, focus. So there we go. I'll put a coat of head cement on it and then take pictures. Well, actually, I'm probably wait to take pictures until I've got the whole series done. This one is check off the old list. Thanks for joining me tonight on this surprise fly tying stream. Glad you could join me. Like I said, over on my Instagram, when I reach 500 followers, I'll be doing a competition/giveaway. Thanks for stopping by at the show this past weekend. If you came by my booth, I will be tabling at the Maryland Fly Fishing and Collectible Tackle Show, and that's March 14th at Towson University. Towson University. Towson's somewhere else and something else. That's March 14th. And so come say hi. Always happy to talk to people during the shows. It's a one-day only show, so it's only just March 14th. But I will have a table there, and I look forward to seeing any of you that stop by. Yeah, I am just wondering.brad on Instagram and Studio 1213 on Etsy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.